Senator Sullivan, you're next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Colby, good to see you and your family. Thank you to your family for serving everybody. I know your father's served his country very admirably as well, so thank you, all of you. I want to just make a point. 4 years ago, when the Undersecretary of Defense for Policy was testifying at his confirmation hearing, President Biden's Undersecretary, he said that one of his top priorities was to, quote, stamp out systemic racism within the ranks, unquote. My view is that began the woke assault on the military. Do you believe our military is systemically racist, Mr. Colby?
I do not, Senator.
And will you work with this committee and Secretary Hegseth to stamp out the remaining remnants of the woke assault that we spent 4 years dealing with under Biden and his Undersecretary of Policy and everybody else?
Senator, I commit to you to work to and support of Secretary Hegseth, if confirmed, to restore a focus on lethality, readiness, and meritocracy, and these kinds of values.
Good. I think that's the right focus, and our military is not systemically racist, despite what the last administration told everybody. Alliances, I'm glad to see in your short, brief, but powerful opening statement, you talked about the power of alliances. Do you agree that our alliances throughout the world are a source of American power and strength?
I do, Senator. I think they need to be, as I said, adapted and made more sustainable, and that's the approach that I would take, fixing rather than dumping is my approach.
The ambassador for NATO is having his confirmation hearing right now as we speak, downstairs and upstairs or somewhere in the Foreign Relations Committee. That's Matt Whitaker. He has testified already this morning. He's a strong supporter of the NATO alliance. Are you a strong supporter of the NATO alliance? And getting them to get to 2% or 3%, certainly. But you still think that's a useful, important alliance for the United States?
I do. Again, Senator, I very much believe in NATO, but I believe it has to, I think the phrase is it has to adapt to, things must change to stay the same, basically, the logic being they've got to be able to, it's got to actually go back, in my view, to something closer to what it was in the Cold War. I like to point out the West German military in 1988, two-thirds the size of current Germany, had 12 active divisions. The Germans can't put a single division together now. It's not tenable. And so I think we're seeing progress. Now the question is, how do we manage this dangerous period of transition?
I agree with all that, but it's worth reforming because it does provide power and strength to the United States.
Yeah, I think the NATO alliance is important.
Let me reinforce Senator Cotton's important line of questions this morning, and I appreciate those. Just to be clear, your suggestions in previous writings, you had a Wall Street Journal editorial that was highlighting those today, that we could tolerate Iran with a nuclear weapon, a suggestion, is no longer your view, correct?
Well, Senator, if I could elaborate on this.
I would just be real quick.
Yeah, but I believe we should not allow Iran to have a nuclear weapon, and if confirmed, I would believe that it's my responsibility to provide credible, good military.
And that's your personal view, because a lot of times you can say, well,
that's
the president said it.
That's my own
so
view.
that's kind of mine, but you don't really believe it. But you believe that,
I believe that
personally.
Yes, and Senator, if I could.
It's important, by the way. That's your personal
I agree.
view.
No, and what I was saying, first of all, I've been in the policy debate a long time. Not everything I said I would say.
Get that. You're a public intellectual. You can't be held to it.
But not anymore. Obviously, I'm up for a job of great public responsibility, so I understand that. But also, I would say a lot of what I was arguing against at the time, these conversations 15 years ago, a lot of the opponents, I felt had a casual or some cases even flippant attitude towards the employment of military force.
Yep.
And that's a lot of what I was arguing against. Was my wording always appropriate? Was my precise framing always appropriate? No, but I think
Iran with a nuclear weapon is an existential threat to the United States.
And I think that we now have the leadership with the Vice President, Secretary of Defense, and ultimately the President, who understand that we need to be militarily strong, but also understand the downside risks of the employment of military force. It needs to be rational.
Do you fully support the President's return to maximum pressure?
I do, Senator, yeah.
Let me talk on, real quick, I only got 40 seconds left. Your 2018 national security strategy, I thought, was excellent. Well done. The rebalance to focus on great power competition, very important. But also, there's an element of deterrence in that that's still important. And you've written in your excellent book, Strategy of Denial, that we need to provide a credible deterrent in the Taiwan Strait to prevent China from achieving regional hegemony. But on deterrence itself, here's my question. Is deterrence divisible for the United States? And what I mean by that is, you know, when people say, well, we can let bad guys, Putin, roll in Europe, Iran role in the Middle East, but we're going to be strong in the Taiwan Strait. Is deterrence divisible in that way? I think it's not. Just look at Joe Biden, Afghanistan. Holy cow, that was a disaster. And guess what happened? And I predicted this. Every bad guy in the world was like, hey, I'm making my move. Putin probably would not have even invaded Ukraine had it not been for Afghanistan. Same with Hamas and Iran, with Israel. So we got to rebalance, but is deterrence divisible? Because I think that's where you and I might have a little disagreement and you get into the danger zone there. I don't think it is, but what do you think?
I think, Senator, that things are definitely interconnected, but what I'll say, and I recognize I'm over time, is that it's really important. I can't remember who said it, but you got to have this right stuff in the right place at the right time, and we need to make sure that we've got that. So we've got to do both of these things. We have to pay attention to the political credibility issues and how we're perceived, but at the end of the day, as you know well, given your distinguished military service, Senator, we need to have the right stuff in the right place at the right time to have the right effect. As I think Douglas MacArthur famously said, the two most infamous words in military history are too late, right? And I think that's really what that side of the equation is what I'm driving towards, Senator.
Thank you very much, Mr. Colby. Now, a vote has begun. This hearing will continue, and members, if they will,